Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Kickster Rankings. So today I'm going to be doing my top 10 superhero films of all time. So to be clear, this is only going to be obviously films that I have seen. I can't obviously rank films that I haven't seen before. So there might be a few there that you might contend with, that you think should have been in the list, but I'm only going to be doing the top 10 of what I consider to be my favorite superhero films of all time. And I'll also throw in some honorable mentions into the mix. We've got a lot to get through with these 10 picks. I want to give some brief thoughts on each of the films as I go along, so it will take a bit of time, bear with me, but let's just dive right in, starting with number 10. In 10th place is The Dark Knight Rises. So this film, when I first saw it, I was in love with it. I loved everything about it, and I loved it so much at the time when it came out and from the first few viewings that I saw it. As time has gone on, however, it has diminished in my mind. I've started to kind of pick apart some of the flaws throughout the film that I have issues with, mainly kind of that middle section of the film where it's like when Bruce is in the pit and then meanwhile all the havoc is being wreaked in Gotham, and you've got like the police being trapped underground. All these scenarios just feel really convoluted and really far-fetched, at least compared to what had occurred in the previous two Christopher Nolan Batman films. So this one does feel like it's the weakest of the trilogy, but I still think it's a really great film. I think there's enough greatness in the film and great themes throughout it to make it a worthy addition in my top 10. Particularly the whole theme of rising up, it's both physically and mentally. So obviously Bruce has to rise out of the pit physically and overcome his physical issues, but then there's also the mental challenge of conquering his fears once again and basically being reborn as Batman. I love those themes, and it spoke to me a lot. So yeah, Dark Knight Rises in 10th place. In 9th place is Avengers Endgame. So much like Dark Knight Rises, this was another one that would have initially been higher on my list, but as time has gone on, it's kind of diminished a bit for me. The main reasons for that is that the issue I had with it from the beginning was that I found it lacked action, strangely. I know it has the massive battle at the end, which is the last 45 minutes of the film, but the film is 3 hours and there's not actually a lot of action throughout the film, strangely enough, at least compared to Infinity War and some of the other Avengers movies or MCU films. This one felt more like a build and build and build and build all for that final climactic battle, which, don't get me wrong, it was fantastic, it was worth it, but I feel like could have benefited from some more action. But I think the greatest issue with this film, when I think of it in retrospect, is that the Thanos that they are fighting at the end is not the Thanos from Infinity War, aka the one who beat them. They are versing a Thanos who has basically been given a Cliff Notes version of what he achieved in the future. And so this is a past Thanos who does not have any personal connection to any of these Avengers. So there's no real revenge match when it comes to it. It feels forced, doesn't feel like it's the actual conflict that we should have got, which should have been with the Thanos. So that was the downside of it for me as time has gone on. But that said, it's still an amazing capper on the whole phases 1, 2, and 3 of the MCU. I think they should have, in hindsight, have ended it there and done a fresh reboot, because everything that's come since has been pretty much trash. But yeah, look, that's one of my overall thoughts. Avengers Endgame, I think it's a great film. It has its issues, but yeah, 9th place. In 8th place is SpiderMan, the first Spider-Man by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire. This film is what made me love superhero films. I mean, it was really my first kind of taste of it as a kid. I was about 10 at the time when it was released. And, this was at a time when superhero films were not a thing. They existed throughout history, but they were never really taken seriously. And I hadn't quite gotten into X-Men, which had just come out before it. So this was my first taste of superhero, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely love this film. To me, it's aged a bit poorly. Some of the action doesn't quite hold up, but the themes and the storytelling and the characters, all of that are just still fantastic to this day. And I think all of superhero films that have come since really owe it to the success of this Spider-Man film and what it achieved in 2002 when it came out. It cannot be understated just exactly how impactful this film was on cinema in general, and not just superhero films. So it was really a phenomenon in terms of what they were able to achieve with CGI and all this stuff. So yeah, I love this film. Tobey Maguire to me is the quintessential Spider-Man, and yeah, it's right up there, and I've got it in firmly 8th place. In 7th place is The Avengers. So this is the first Avengers film with the first team up. Going into this film, I had pretty much no expectations. I didn't say I had low expectations, but not really any, because my feelings for the films that had come so far with the first 2 Iron Man films and Captain America, Thor, whatnot, I liked them, but I was never in love with them. So it was coming into this one, it was like, okay, this is something different. It's actually seeing a team of superheroes on a screen. We've never really seen that before. I'll check it out. Well, I was blown away. I mean, this film, the way Joss Whedon, the director, was able to craft it and make them all kind of important to the story, but like giving them each their own time and meaning and development. And the action was just top notch. Like the whole Battle of New York was phenomenal. So it's a great origin story for the Avengers. You know, it builds on their characters from what we had seen from their previous individual films, but brought them together as a team, and it was a great. And they all grew together within that film, and it's a fantastic film, like a quintessential popcorn flick. Can't go wrong with it. And yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. It blew all my expectations out of the water. So yeah, The Avengers, 7th place. In 6th place is Captain America Civil War, the 3rd entry in the Captain America series of films. This was obviously well right into the MCU, kind of at the end of, I think, at the beginning of phase 3, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this film was essentially an Avengers 2.5. I mean, you had that many of the Avengers in the film that you can pretty much consider it that, and it's, you know, it's a fight between the Avengers. So that's really what it's about. But to me, I love how they were able to kind of include the political aspect into these films, and that kind of moral debate between Tony and Steve Rogers about which side, like, you understand both of their sides in this debate. You understand Steve's more rogue nature of not trusting the government, and then you understand Tony's position of wanting to end this, like the destruction that comes with wherever they go. And there's this great debate that plays out throughout the whole film that I absolutely love. And the twist at the end with Bucky is fantastic, really emotional and like dark stuff. It's really good. And you know, the introductions of like Black Panther in this film I thought was great, like the way they introduced him, and then like handling the likes of Vision, Black Widow, all this stuff. It was jam-packed, but they all still got their own time and moments, and it's a great film. And obviously the whole airport scene is like a playground kind of thing. It's like how you would play with toys almost as a kid, like how you would just throw them all into this crazy setting and throwing stuff at each other. That's what it reminds me of. And so my inner child watching that scene was just like bursting with joy. But you can kind of see it's a bit silly at times as well, but it is a lot of fun. So yeah, Captain America Civil War in 6th place. In 5th place is another Captain America film, and that is Captain America the Winter Soldier. So to me, this film, when I saw it, was just incredible. Like it was obviously off the back of seeing the Avengers. So I was used to the scenario now where you would see all the team up of Avengers together, and now all of a sudden Steve is on his own journey again. And Avengers was what really made me love Steve Rogers. I didn't really love him that much after seeing him in his first film, but now after Avengers, I was really intrigued to see where he goes, and I just really related to his character. And so yeah, and this film was like a 70s political thriller through and through, with incredible action, incredible CGI, great meaning behind it, and you know, the Steve's like spirit of wanting to bring back his friend Bucky. It's got so many deep themes in it, and it's got so much like political intrigue as well, similar to, as I mentioned, with Civil War, but this one's more about government corruption and things like that, which are very relatable themes. And yeah, I think it's a great, fantastic film. It might be the best of the MCU films technically, but there is going to be another one on this list that I'll get to. But yeah, I love this film, Captain America the Winter Soldier, in 5th place. And so in 4th place, this might be a little bit of a surprise, but The Dark Knight. A lot of people have this as their greatest superhero film of all time, and I can completely understand that. The film is simply phenomenal. The twists and turns throughout it, the way it handles all the characters, and obviously the performance of Heath Ledger as the Joker is out of this world. I mean, it's iconic. Literally every single line of dialogue that he has in this film is just more iconic than the last, and there's not enough superlatives to describe The Dark Knight. And I remember coming out of the theater when I saw this film, it was like my mind was blown in so many ways. I couldn't believe that a superhero film could be this good. And you know, I was mainly a SpiderMan fan at the time, and so to see a Batman film that was just blowing me away in these kinds of ways was, yeah, just amazing. So yeah, The Dark Knight it really changed the superhero game. It changed what it meant to make a superhero film and what we can expect from it, and it changed the whole game. People tried to replicate it, but no one's been able to improve on it since. So yeah, that's a testament to its quality and its legacy, everything. It's a fantastic film. The Dark Knight, 4th place. So 3rd place, this is going to be a bit of a shock coming off the back of The Dark Knight being in 4th place, but Batman Begins in 3rd place. You won't find many people that will put this film ahead of The Dark Knight in terms of, even within its own trilogy, let alone amongst all films. But to me, Batman Begins, this is a rankings of superhero films, not films, superhero films. And Batman Begins to me is a better Batman movie than The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, I would say, is a better movie, but Batman Begins is a better superhero movie. And what I mean by that, I mean, the origins, like firstly, it's an origin story. So we get to really see how he becomes Batman. It's so fascinating. It's so well done. And, you know, it's obviously grounded in this realistic world. And the action set pieces are great. Just seeing all the build up, all of that, the villains, the twists, it's great stuff. But then on top of that, the setting that they built for like Arkham Island, I think it is, I can't remember, the Narrows, they call it. That felt like Gotham. Like, this is the aesthetic look of Gotham in this film was so much better than in Dark Knight, and in particular Dark Knight Rises. They really let it go in those 2 films. But Batman Begins, they should have kept that aesthetic for the 3 films. It was spot on, and unfortunately they didn't. But Batman Begins in itself is a fantastic film. So much great about it. And so many people, when they went to see The Dark Knight for the first time, didn't even know that this film existed. It flew so under the radar, but it's just a phenomenal film. It's absolutely phenomenal. I love it, and I'll never forget it. So yeah, Batman Begins in 3rd place. For any of you who have watched my MCU film rankings, you will not be shocked to know what's in 2nd place, and that is Avengers Infinity War. I love this film. I just adore it. There's so much you can say about this film. You'll never be able to give it all the praise that it deserves. From the very first moment with the introduction of Thanos, this film is perfectly crafted. You think about how many characters they have to juggle in this film, how many superheroes that we love, not just any superheroes, but all of them we love, and to varying degrees, and they have to juggle them all, and they all get their own development. They all have an input into the story and the film. They all have a worth, and it's just fantastic stuff. But to me, the most intriguing thing about this film when you're watching it is you're seeing that it's rare to have a character. So for obviously Thanos, he's collecting the Infinity Stones, and you know with each stone that he collects that he's closer to having control of the universe, essentially. And so as you see him collect each stone, you feel the stakes rise, and the intensity just grows and grows and grows and grows in this film, and it's amazing. And then obviously that ending with the good guys losing, with half of the universe getting snapped out of existence. We'd never seen anything like that in cinema. Nothing. And so it was just incredible to see. And it's the greatest, it could be one of the greatest cliffhangers we've ever had in cinema, in terms of, I think it's almost up there with the likes of I'm Your Father from Star Wars and other things like that. But Endgame didn't quite pay it off, if you ask me. It did a great job, didn't quite pay it off. But Infinity War, as it stands, is a incredible film, like in so many ways. The action set pieces, the story, the pacing, all of that. It's got everything you want. It's a superhero fan's dream. I mean, you've got all these characters in one go coming together. People look at the Portals moment from Endgame feeling like this was the moment they've been waiting for, but really the Infinity War movie is that portal scene, but for 2.5 hours. So it's amazing. I love it to death. I think it will always remain my favorite MCU film. So yeah, Avengers Infinity War, 2nd place. Before I move on to 1st place, I'm going to do a few honourable mentions that I feel are worthy of mention in this rankings, because it's only a top 10, but these films are great in their own rights. I'm talking about the likes of the first Iron Man movie, starring Robert Downey Jr., which has obviously kicked off basically this whole MCU. fantastic film, really great origin story, and it's damn near perfect in its own ways. Captain America, the first Avenger, so his first film is really underrated. It is a great period piece set obviously during World War II, and it's just a great origin story again for him. It's just a fantastic film. And another one people might not even think about is, to me, Spider-Man Far From Home. This was my favorite of the three so far Tom Holland Spider-Man films. You know, I've talked about before that I'm not the biggest fan of No Way Home, but I felt Far From Home is really underrated, and I really enjoyed that movie for what it was when it came out. And another one I want to mention is Avengers of Age of Ultron. This one I feel gets a bit of hate, and I think it's unfair just because it gets compared to the greatness of the first Avengers film. It's not as good as the first Avengers film, but to me it's still a damn good film and does a really decent job of juggling all the characters that it has to deal with and progressing the story. And so yeah, I really love that film too. So yeah, just wanted to mention these ones, just give them some shout outs, give them some love because they deserve it. And yeah, so next and last will be my first place. And so first place is Spider-Man 2 starring Tobey Maguire. Spider-Man 2, I don't know where to start with this one, but the themes of this film, to me, are the greatest I've seen in a superhero film. It seems so simple, the idea of a superhero essentially losing his powers or wanting to lose his powers because he wants to have a normal life. It's the ultimate conundrum for a superhero like that, and particularly Spider-Man, who has to deal with these burdens of not being able to disclose his identity for the sake of protecting the people around him, and how that might affect him. And seeing that in this film where it affects him in such a way that he actually loses his powers, I think it was great. It's such a strong message in it, but it also teaches him again that lesson of with great power comes great responsibility, without even really having to say it. You know, it's said explicitly in the first film, and it is said in this film, but you're experiencing Peter understanding now what it means to take this with great responsibility, you know, with this power. So it's really an amazing film. You know, Doc Ock as the villain, he's great. Alfred Molina is great. The action, I mean, the train sequence always blows my mind when I see it still to this day. I love that scene. I love all the action in this film, and I just love the story overall. It's got Sam Raimi is just a master to me in this genre. Within these films, he's masterful at juggling the serious moments with the lighthearted moments. Something I've been very critical of with the recent MCU films is I feel they delve too much into the silliness, and we can't take these films seriously. Whereas you watch the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films and you'll see there are moments that are just as silly as any MCU film, but he has this genius ability to straight away next moment pick up, reintroduce the stakes again and make it serious and a touching moment. It's masterful. It's simply masterful. And so I can't say enough about this film, how much I love it. And you know, you could say it's just one superhero film, and that's what I love about it. It is just Spider-Man. There's something about seeing all these MCU films now with so many Avengers in them that just makes you long for just those films where it's just one hero standing up against all the bad guys or the bad guy. And yeah, Spider-Man 2, ever since I saw it for the first time, I've adored it. And yeah, it still remains to this day. I cannot put any other superhero film above it in terms of quality. To me, it's simply the best. And yeah, so that's what I think. Spider-Man 2 in first place as the greatest superhero film of all time. So that's my rankings, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. That's my top 10 superhero films. I would love to know what you guys think in the comments section below. Put your rankings from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, however you want to do it. I want to know what you think of my list. I'd love to hear yours. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. And we'll see you next time. Bye.